They're coming to get you, Barbara. That was a famous quote from the 1968 cult classic Night of the Living Dead. What's more intriguing, however, isn't necessarily the movie, but the man behind it, director George A. Romero. Romero is widely known among the film industry. Many consider him not only to be the grandfather and king of zombie films, but he is the person who created this subgenre of horror known as the undead. Romero has a rather interesting past about him. Not to mention, there are several career highlights worth talking about, on top of the fact that he did deal with several struggles throughout his entire career. To begin, Romero loved movies growing up as a kid. He was quoted on IMDb saying that he was inspired by the movie The Tales of Hoffman, made in 1951. From then on, Romero decided to go to a university named Carnegie Mellon, where he studied the arts, being highly interested in theater and filmmaking. From then on, after he graduated, he got a couple of jobs writing several commercials, but his big break, at least on a small screen, wasn't until he got asked to write some educational skits for a rather popular TV show known as Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. This was but the tip of the iceberg for Romero's career. When it comes to films, George A. Romero's first independent movie was Night of the Living Dead in 1968. Romero played with the idea of the undead coming back to life and attacking the living, using this idea as a social commentary and satire among cinema, as stated in several sources. However, according to Bile.com, Romero only had a budget of $100,000 to make the entire movie. But not only was this film a financial success, it was considered a cult classic in the early 70s, even being put to the National Film Registry in the U.S. Congress. From this point on, the only other film that would be considered as good, if not better, than his original Night of the Living Dead was its sequel in 1978, Dawn of the Dead. This focused more on the survivors on the undead apocalypse, surviving them all and making it their own. From this point, Romero only had a budget of $1.5 million, but the film grossed an entire $40 million worldwide in profits. Critics praised the movie, one such as Roger Ebert himself saying, and I quote, "This is the best horror movie ever made." Romero from then on got a large increase in the budget when it came to making his films. However, he did come into several struggles throughout his career as a whole. The biggest one would have to be the issue of being typecast. After the great success of Night of the Living Dead, Romero got asked by several studios to make different horror movies. He was quoted as saying that he was resisting. He did not want to be typecast. Unfortunately, this seems to be the case, since the direct film he made after Dawn of the Dead was called Night Riders, made in 1981. This in no way, shape, or form was a horror movie, nor did it have anything to do with the undead. Because of that, people, according to Grindhouse Cinema Database, did not really expect this from Romero, and even though it's considered a cult classic to this very day, didn't do too well in the financial box office or with his fans. Because of this, many people associated Romero to just be typecast as someone who made zombie films. And despite other horror movies he made, such as Martin or The Crazies or Everything's Vanilla, they would eventually not do so well in the box office either, and fans, again according to Grindhouse Cinema, would not really appreciate them as much. Despite all this, Romero had a big impact among the industry as a whole. Not only is his past interesting, but his successes are noteworthy, and the struggles he went through is what made him the director that many argue he is. When it comes down to it, not only will fans and fanatics alike of the undead come to recognize him as the king of undead movies. But he is undoubtedly the first person to ever create this subgenre of horror as we know it today. Thank you for your time.